Welcome to the Warp. I'm Jack Reda. Today we're going to be taking a look at Cosmic Eons, the 6th expansion for Cosmic Encounter. We're going to look at the 30 aliens, the new mechanic of essence cards, and the alliance styles.
So I want to start with the essence cards. As you can see, they are smaller than the standard card for the game. And the art on the backs of the cards will correspond to the aliens themselves. Here we have Algar, Anarchist, and Sheriff. And then the face for the cards will have the different effects and artwork to go with it, as well as numbering so that you can keep track of which is which, in addition to its name.
Players with an essence card alien will have a little set of essence cards, 3 at a time. It's called a cache, not a hand, because any effects that target hands will not affect the essence cards themselves. First off, we have AI. This is an information alien. He's going to get a token on his sheet at the start of every player's turn. And then once per encounter as a main player, before allies are invited, AI can look at a number of hidden elements in the game depending on the number of tokens on the sheet. And tokens are not spent, they accumulate. So for instance, he can look at cards in a player's hand or cards off the top of a deck, including cards in an essence cache, hidden powers, face-down cards, and any other secret stuff. Our next alien is Alien. This is our first essence alien, and all the essence aliens have a little icon at the bottom to let you know that it's an essence alien. And the way Alien works is at the beginning of another player's turn, Alien gets to abduct one of that player's ships from any of their colonies. Then they're going to take one of their essence cards, and Alien's essence cards are called trauma cards. They'll take a trauma card, they'll place it next to the sheet, and put the player's ship on it as a marker. And they can only abduct one ship from a player at any given time. Later, when Alien is not the offense, they can return the ship to the player into the encounter that's happening, even if it means there's now 5 ships in the hyperspace gate. And they give them their trauma card. And when that player reveals their encounter card, they're going to also reveal the trauma card and do its effects. So, this trauma card, for instance, is called Depression. If you reveal an attack card, its value is 0. This one is called Aggression. You may play attack cards in your hand as reinforcements. So not all the traumas are bad, although most of them are not good. So you can be very creative and strategic about which ships you abduct, which trauma cards you're going to assign to them, and when you decide to reveal them, because you can help yourself out as much as you can try to hurt another player. Anarchist is our second essence alien. And the way this one works is they have a number of essence cards that are called disruptions, and they break certain rules. So when Anarchist loses an encounter or fails to make a deal, they get to reveal one of their disruptions, and this is a rule that Anarchist can now break. But at any point, another player can say, I want to be able to break that rule, and Anarchist will put the disruption on their sheet. They'll be able to also break that rule, but as soon as they do, then the disruption goes into the middle of the table where it's open to everyone. And every time Anarchist moves a disruption off of his sheet, he gets to reveal another one. And if he reveals all 8 of the disruptions, then Anarchist can win the game through an alternate path. So some of the examples, this one is called the Destiny rule. Whenever you should draw from Destiny, you may instead look through the deck and choose which card to draw. This one is called the Hand rule. When you have no attack cards, you may discard your hand and draw a new one at any time, continuing your turn if you are the offense. So Anarchist breaks the rules, makes them available for the other players. It's very chaotic in a really good way. I like Anarchist quite a bit. Our next alien is Architect, and Architect gets to stack planets. So whenever Architect wins an encounter as a main player, he gets to stack 2 of the planets in his opponent's system, merging all of the colonies there together into the one planet. Then in subsequent encounters, when Architect is a main player, he gets to double his encounter totals if there is a stack of 2 or more in the opponent's system, 3 or more in the system adjacent to the opponent, or 4 or more in a system anywhere in the game. So he really wants to stack those planets up in as many systems as possible, or at least find one system where he can stack a bunch of them together and make a really tall tower. Next we have Assistant, another essence alien. An assistant gives out help cards. And whenever assistant is a main player or an ally, she can give one of these help cards to a player on her side and then gain a reward. Subsequently, a player can say, I want to use my help card, and they gain whatever benefit is on there, and give the card back to assistant, who then can either gain another reward or can also take advantage of the effect of the help card. So as far as help cards, we've got needed card. At any time, the assistant will find a card you name in the discard pile and give it to you. And then we have another one here is called ship scarcity. At any time, the assistant will retrieve any or all of your ships from the warp per your instructions. So help cards are very helpful, and assistant can gain a lot of rewards handing them out. And players will be tempted to use them, even though assistant will benefit in some way as well. Next up, we have Bleeding Heart. This is one of the several negotiation or deal aliens that are in the game. And the way Bleeding Heart works is in any encounter, before allies are invited, Bleeding Heart can say, "Let there be peace." And when that happens, then any attack card 10 or less that is revealed becomes a negotiate card, and any compensation received is doubled. Next up, we have Cloak. Now, this is my favorite alien in the expansion, but it's a bit of a wild ride, so strap in as I explain how it works. Whenever both sides in the encounter reveal attack cards and their totals are 20 or more, Cloak freezes the action. All the players have to put their hands face down on the table, fanned out a little bit. Then they close their eyes, turn away from the table, and Cloak counts to 15. During that time, Cloak may move a ship belonging to any player from one location to another, including to or from the warp or colony to colony, and or move a card from one player's hand to another or to or from the top of a discard pile. At the end of the 15 seconds, Cloak stops and everyone opens their eyes and looks at the state of the table, and Cloak counts out another 15 seconds. During this time, players are looking and trying to figure out what's changed, if anything. And on a first-come, first-served basis, before Cloak ends the 15 count, a player can say, I know what has been changed. And then they have to explain either the origin or the destination of the ship and or the card. And they have to be right about everything or say nothing has been changed. If they are right, then they can either collect one reward or they can change whatever Cloak has done. If they're wrong about any of it, or if nobody makes a guess within the end of that 15 seconds, then Cloak gets a reward and whatever has been changed stays that way. This alien is a hoot. It's ridiculously hilarious how it plays out, and 20 is not a hard total to get to in this game, so Cloak generally can fire pretty often. Next we have Coward. This is an alien that gets to flee the encounter. After cards are played face down, but before they're revealed, Coward can say, I'm out of here. All of the ships on his side go home to their colonies, but it counts as a win for Coward, although not a loss for the opponent. Also, Coward will get rewards for every ship his opponent had in the encounter. So Coward lives to fight another day, and hopefully with better cards. Next we have Crusher. This is an alien that uses an extra set of spaceships. And the way it works is Crusher has all those ships on his sheet, and whenever Crusher is a main player or whenever Crusher goes to the warp, he can use one of those ships and stack them on top of another player's stacked ships, and that whole stack then counts as just one ship for encounter totals, for compensation, or for rewards. There are ways that Crusher can let you get your ships out, but they're stacked that way otherwise for the rest of the game. Next up we have Emperor. Whenever you send ships into Emperor's system by attacking or gaining a colony there, Emperor gets to demand a tribute. So what you're going to do is you're going to give Emperor a card from your hand and one of your ships from a colony as a marker. He's going to place these on his sheet. At any time when Emperor has at least 3 cards from at least 2 different players, Emperor can scoop up all the cards and look at them and keep any of the cards that he wants. Now, any cards that he doesn't get are discarded, but he's allowed to send one back to a player, and that player then has to lose 3 ships to the warp. And when all of these cards are scooped up, people get their ships back. So Emperor gets to pick on somebody if they want, but also get good cards. And when you're giving tribute, you have to decide, all right, am I running the risk of losing 3 ships, or do I just give him something good? So it's an interesting alien. Now we have Evil Twin. This is a powerful, nasty, controversial alien. And the way it works is when Evil Twin is a main player, he's going to pick somebody other than his opponent to be his good twin by giving them a twin token. And that player is going to have to suffer any losses or penalties that Evil Twin otherwise would have to lose, like being forced to discard cards from hand or give them away, or any ships lost. If Evil Twin loses a colony, he'll vacate the planet, but the good twin is the ones who have to send ships to the warp. And that person is the good twin until destiny comes up in the next encounter. And Evil Twin's super is triplet, so he gets to hand out 2 tokens. It's like I said, a really nasty alien, but an interesting effect. And players are going to have to gang up on Evil Twin to really try to slow him down. Fire Dancer is another one of the deal aliens in the set, and the way it works is Fire Dancer is going to be creating these defensive fires in various players' systems, usually by offering to make a deal with somebody during the Destiny phase. And if that player can give Fire Dancer something that you would normally get in a deal, Fire Dancer will take one of these fire tokens, place it in that player's system, and then those 2 players will then get to put an attack card from their hands under the token, and the value of those cards together will add to the defense for 1 encounter. And if a fire hasn't been used yet in a subsequent encounter, they can have another deal where you add cards to it. So it's something different and interesting. It's always good to get stuff in a deal. Hypochondriactis is a very interesting and unusual, unique alien. What happens is Hypochondriactis is going to start the game with a bunch of these anxiety tokens. And basically, if you have the most anxiety tokens, you can't win the game. You're not able to land your ships on a planet if it means it would get you a game-winning colony. And Hypochondriac has a mechanic for giving tokens away to other players. But you can prevent that by offering Hypochondriac some kind of deal items like cards or a colony. But throughout the game, players who have Hypochondriac anxiety tokens on their sheets will be giving half of them away when they win an encounter to the opposing main player. So they'll move around quite a bit, and it's a very unusual mechanic to add to the game on top of everything else. Klutz is an interesting, fun little alien. It was almost part of Cosmic Dominion from Bill Martinson. The way it works is when Klutz gets 1 or more cards from a deck, he has to discard 1 or 2 of them. And most of the time you're going to be able to shed cards that you don't want, and this includes your starting hand. The other thing that Klutz gets to do is when Klutz lands ships on a planet, he gets to knock a ship off of an adjacent planet and it goes to the warp, and it's described as you pick it up and examine it, and then whoops, you drop it, and sorry, it goes to the warp. So it's an interesting resource, give and take there, and it's quite a bit of fun to play. Maven is a very interesting alien, and it gets to determine the outcome of encounters that it's not involved in based on what it has in hand. So when other players are in an encounter and Maven is not an ally or a main player, after encounter cards are face down, Maven can stop the action and determine the winner by discarding an encounter card from his hand. If it is an even-numbered attack card, then the defense wins the encounter. If it's an odd-numbered attack card, then the offense wins. And if it's a negotiate, then the 2 main players have to enter into a deal. Whatever cards those players had played face down are going to go face down onto Maven's sheet, and they'll get reshuffled into a deck when a deck gets reshuffled. So it's very interesting to sit out and have things happen, but you're really restricted by what you've got. And there are fewer odd attack cards in the deck than there are even attack cards. Moocher is one of your goofier cosmic encounter aliens, and the way it works is on his turn, on his first encounter, if he loses, he gets to take one of these couch tokens and place it in a different player system and put ships on it, and it counts as a foreign colony for Moocher. Subsequently, whenever a player who has a couch in their system is the offense, if they don't invite Moocher as an ally, Moocher gets to yell shotgun and join anyway, unless that player lets Moocher take a card at random from that player's hand. So it's definitely fun to play. It's pretty silly, and having these couches in the game is fairly cosmic, I'd have to say. Multitude is another really powerful alien. Now you can see that there are these multipliers that go around the outside of the artwork, and you're going to take a cosmic token and start by putting it here on the _1. And whenever multitude is in an encounter, the value of the ships equal whatever the multiplier is. So they'll start with each one is worth 1, but then each ship will be worth 2, each ship will be worth 4, and so on and so on. And the way this raises up is whenever Multitude's color comes up in Destiny, or a special Destiny card comes up, you're going to move the token up to the next highest one. Now it resets whenever you draw a wild Destiny card, whenever anyone draws one. But there's only 2 in the deck, so if you get really lucky with the shuffle of the Destiny pile, you can get up to the point where each of your ships is worth 32, which is just nuts. Nanny is another essence alien, and this one is another one that also fosters negotiations. So the way it works is when Nanny is not a main player, after the alliances are formed, she can give a negotiate card from her hand to one or both main players, and also give them one of these consequence cards from her essence cache. And each of these consequence cards has an incentive for you to reveal that negotiate card, and a punishment for if you don't. And in addition to that, Nanny's able to pick up any negotiate cards that are discarded by other players. And part of the punishment is that Nanny can put you in timeout. And when you're in timeout, then you're pretty much out of the game for an encounter. You don't get to have a turn if your turn comes up, and no one can attack you if your color comes up in the Destiny pile. So let's look at a couple of these consequence cards. This one's called the Reward Consequence card. And the incentive is you receive 1 reward for every ship you have in the encounter if you reveal that negotiate card. The punishment is that Nanny gets to look through your hand and discards any artifact cards or reward deck cards that you had in your hand. And this is one where you actually don't have a timeout. But the ship consequence card, the incentive is that you release one of your ships from the warp. But the punishment is you lose a ship to the warp, and then you're in timeout during the next player's turn. So that could be for 2 encounters. So Nanny is a pretty rough customer, and it does bring some new and interesting stuff to the game. And again, you're fostering a lot of negotiating and probably a lot of deal making, which can be good or bad for Nanny depending on how other people are doing in the game and what they're going to get out of those deals. We have another essence alien, Nightmare, and this one has a number of essence cards that are called Bad Dreams. And the way that Nightmare hands those out is if Nightmare is either not invited as an ally, he can give you a bad dream, or if Nightmare is on the losing side of an encounter, he can give a bad dream to someone on the winning side. But a player can never have more than 1 bad dream at a time. And then Nightmare, who's the only one who knows what those bad dreams are, gets to reveal them whenever he wants and apply the effects then if they're applicable. So I'll give you a couple of examples. This one is called Teeth Falling Out. If you are revealing an attack card, instead of its face value, the card's value is divided by 2, rounded down. And this one is called Naked in Public. If you're winning the game along with 1 or more other players, instead those other players are actually winning without you. So some of them are pretty nasty, but they are funny. They're all based on classic Nightmare sort of archetypes. And you, again, like with a lot of the other Essence aliens, you're holding 3 at a time in your cache, and you've got to be very careful and deliberate about which one you give to which players. Now you can reveal some of the ones that are not appropriate just to get rid of them, and then give somebody one that you know will be more effective later on. This brings us to Algar, another Essence alien. This alien is really unusual and a lot of fun to play. The way it works is, first of all, Algar gets to go first in the game. The next thing is Algar always draws 1 extra card when getting a new hand, including the first hand.
And then Oligarch has a number of these privilege essence cards. And Algar gets to reveal an essence card whenever a player has one more foreign colony than the number of face-up essence cards. So if Oligarch has one face-up and somebody gets to 2 foreign colonies, then Oligarch gets to flip another one. And a lot of these privilege cards, they give some kind of benefit to Oligarch, but also some kind of handicap to the other players. So to give you a couple of examples, this one's called Encounter Envy. When you are a main player and reveal an attack card, add 3 to your total. All other main players who reveal attack cards subtract 2 from their totals. And this one is called Victory Possession. You need 1 foreign colony fewer than normal to win the game, whereas the other players need 1 more than normal to win the game. So Oligarch really rubs it in, and having it in the game really affects the different dynamics. And it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun to play. Playing against may be another story, but when you have things like Nightmare and Evil Twin and some of these other ones that are coming up, it definitely balances itself out. Now we have Packrat. This is a very unique alien that gets to collect stuff from other players in the form of a random card from their hand, even an essence card, special tokens like a grudge token or an anxiety token, and even an empty planet. And every time Packrat collects something from a player, they get one of their ships to use as a marker. And Packrat is another alien that's going to create deal situations, but because to get your items back, you have to offer Packrat something that you would offer in a deal. In the meantime, Packrat gets to add 1 to his defense for every object that he's collected so far. It's not an alien that I would choose to play very often, but it is unique and unusual, and I know other players who have enjoyed playing it, so I do like having it in my collection. Particle is another powerful alien, and the way it works is whenever Particle gains a colony by landing on a planet as the offense or an ally, he's going to entangle that planet with another planet. I'm going to take these pairs of tokens to mark the planet, and then he has to maintain the same number of ships on both planets. So if Particle lands on a planet with 2 ships, he'll mark that planet with one of the tokens and then mark another planet with another token and then put 2 ships on that planet as well. So when Particle gets 1 foreign colony, he's actually getting 2 foreign colonies at the same time. And then from that point on, he has to maintain the same number of ships on both planets. So if he loses 1 ship on one planet, he's got to move a ship from the entangled planet off of that planet. So likewise, if Particle loses a foreign colony, he's actually going to lose 2 foreign colonies. So very powerful, but also Particle is going to have a big target on his back. It'll be one of the few aliens where you might give up one of your encounters as the offense to attack one of your own planets if your own color comes up in Destiny, just because you know that if you bump Particle off on one, you can get him on the other one too. Next up we have Peddler. This is an alien that pretty much obsoletes Hertz the way that we've come to know it. Peddler is going to set up a shop at the beginning of the game consisting of 8 cards. And these can be cards from the Cosmic deck, the Reward deck, even the Tech deck if those decks are part of the game. The storefront will have 6 face-up cards and 2 face-down cards. And then in any encounter, when Peddler is not a main player, after alliances are formed, he can open the store and try to sell one of the face-up cards to any player, or can show a player one of the face-down cards for sort of a private deal. And you basically offer Peddler anything that you could offer them in a deal in exchange for one of these cards. And Peddler has a mechanic for being able to cycle through the cards. So it's very interesting in the game. Doesn't slow things down too much. It's nice to have stuff that you know is available and that there's a way to get a hold of it if Peddler is game for it. And for Peddler, any kind of a deal-making alien, it's a nice way to be able to catch up or get some stuff that could be more useful in exchange for knowing, all right, I know that this person now has a Cosmic Zap or has a Force Field, but maybe I'm getting something good in exchange. So if we do see Hertz in the future, it's going to be wildly different, and Peddler is a pretty good replacement for it. Now we have Perfectionist. This is an alien that whenever he gets cards, including his starting hand,
gets to throw away any of those cards that he doesn't want, putting them face down on a sheet, and then draw replacement cards. He's not allowed to replace the replacement cards, however. But anytime someone else is going to take cards from Perfectionist, like with compensation, Perfectionist can say, draw from the pile of garbage cards on my sheet. And then whenever you need to draw cards and you can't draw cards from a normal deck, Perfectionist will give you a bunch of the cards at random from his sheet, and then the game can continue. Pretender is another controversial alien that some players are just going to hate. If you hated Swindler, you're definitely going to hate Pretender. Anyway, the way it works is on Pretender's turn, after Destiny is drawn, Pretender picks up his alien sheet and then switches seats with whoever he thinks has the best seat. So that player is going to pick up their alien sheet, but they're going to leave everything else behind. And Pretender will then take over that player's color, their hand, and their score, including any of the stuff that they've accumulated so far. The players will keep their aliens, including any of their special tokens or essence cards or what have you. But now they have probably a terrible score, and Pretender usually goes after whoever had the highest score or is in the best position to win the game. Like I said, it's going to be controversial. There's going to be players who hate that kind of interaction. But some people love having the rug pulled out from under them in a game, especially if they're the ones pulling the rug. That didn't really make a lot of sense, but you know what I mean. This brings us to Sheriff, and this is my favorite of the Essence aliens. And the Sheriff gets to hand out tickets to players who are breaking the rules, according to the Essence cards themselves. So the way it works is once per turn, the Sheriff can look through his cache of Essence cards, find someone who has committed an infraction that's described on one, and give them the ticket. And then each ticket explains what the infraction is and what the fine is, which will be in the form of losing ships to the warp or cards at random from your hand. You keep the ticket face up, but the Sheriff can give you another ticket on another turn, unless the Sheriff collects your fine as a gratuity. So when you lose your ships to the warp, the Sheriff can say, you know what, you can keep your ships. I'm actually going to free my own ships from the warp. Or when you're discarding a card, Sheriff can say, I'm going to put that card in my hand. And then you're going to take your ticket and turn it face down to show that you have immunity from tickets until such a time as the Sheriff has run out of tickets or everyone has immunity. So to give you a couple of examples here, we have excessive force. And this is if you are winning an encounter by more than 10 or reveal an attack card of 20 or higher as a main player. The fine is discard 3 cards. And then we have loitering. And this is if you do not accept an alliance invitation, you have to discard 1 card. So Sheriff is a lot of fun to play. It's a lot of fun to have in the game. It keeps you on your toes. Next we have Surgeon. This is another alien that is going to be making deals. Surgeon's going to have 3 flares face down on his alien sheet. And when he's not a main player, he's going to be able to offer to graft one of these flares to another player's alien sheet, in exchange for whatever you could give Surgeon in a deal. If you agree to it, then you're going to put the flare face up next to your alien sheet. It does not count as part of your hand. And when you play it, it actually doesn't count as playing a flare. It counts as using your alien power. So you can't card zap this grafted flare, although you can cosmic zap it. But it becomes a one-time use. So you reject the surgery after that, and the flare is discarded. I like this quite a bit because I like adding in some extra flare effects into the game. I like having a deal-making alien in there, and anything that does something new is something that interests me very much in Cosmic Encounter. This brings us to the Cult, and this is the big mamma jamma of deal-making aliens. The way it works is when the Cult is a main player, he can offer his opponent membership in the Cult. If the player agrees, then they're going to give one of their ships to the Cult. We'll keep it on a sheet as a marker. And then from that point forward, players who are in the Cult together will have to follow certain rules. First of all, any cards that they reveal when they're both in an encounter will count as negotiate, so they're always going to be making deals. They can never ally against each other. And when they're in an encounter with somebody who's not in the Cult, all Cult memberships that are in the system are going to add to the total and also be at risk, so they'll go to the warp if you lose. Now, if one member of the cult wins the game, then all members of the cult win the game no matter what their score is. You can get out of the cult. So if you agree to lose 4 ships to the warp and 4 cards from your hand, then you can renounce your membership of the cult, you get your ship back, and then you can go it alone. This is a very unusual and interesting alien to have in the game. It's very social. It can be the sort of thing where players will get upset if they're like, oh, those guys are in the cult and they're just going to win the game by themselves. Well, you got to deal with that just like you would deal with anything in Cosmic Encounter. So I think it's very interesting. It's a definitely a new challenge that you can be presented with in the game. So big thumbs up for the cult. And then the last alien is Tortoise. This is another alien that people are going to love it or hate it. I love it. It's my second favorite alien in the set. And the way Tortoise works is on his turn, he's going to collect 4 rewards, and then his turn is over. And the rewards that he collects this way are going to go face down on his sheet, and this counts as your shell. And any other rewards that you get in the game for allying with the defense or what have you, you can add to the shell rather than adding to your hand. Furthermore, when you get rewards, you can choose to get them normally, like cards from the Cosmic deck or cards from the reward deck, but you can also draw cards from the top of either discard pile. So you're accumulating these cards, and when the game ends, if Tortoise is not among the winners, then Tortoise gets to add all the cards from the shell to his hand and then have a big mega machine-like turn in order to try to catch up. Win or lose, he keeps going for as long as he's got encounter cards, trying to catch up with the other winner or winners. At that point, Tortoise can either say, yay, we all win together, or Tortoise can say, you know what? I think I can win this by myself. At that point, Tortoise gets one more encounter to try to go it alone, is not allowed to ask any allies to invite with him, so he really is going it alone. And if he wins, then boom, Tortoise wins the game alone. But if Tortoise loses this one last go-ahead encounter, then he doesn't share the win with the other players. He's out, and whoever won before is the winner of the game. So it's a very risky alien to play. I played it this year at my Cosmic Encounter birthday party, and I had a blast, even though they all did band together at the end and stop me from winning. But I had such a good hand, it would have been foolish of me to not go for it. So that's really what I enjoy out of an alien in Cosmic Encounter, is tough decisions like that. So Tortoise is a great alien, I think, and I enjoy it quite a bit. All right, so overall, what do I think of Cosmic Eons? Well, I really like this expansion quite a bit. I would say I like it better than Cosmic Alliance, better than Cosmic Storm, probably close to about the same as Cosmic Conflict for me. I would say that Incursion and Dominion are my 2 favorite expansions, but this is pretty close to being in the 3rd, maybe the 4th. There's a lot of value in the box. There's 30 aliens with the Essence cards and the Alliance styles, which are a very cool mechanic. The Essence aliens I like a lot. I think Essence cards are a great mechanic. It's a really interesting way to add new depth to the game and really go some new places with the aliens. And I like that all the Essence aliens in this set use the Essence cards in a little bit of a different way, different ways that you can get them, different effects, different ways that you can target players. Overall, I would say the Cosmic Eons is really not an expansion for new players. This is for players who've been playing the game for a long time. They've played through all the base set aliens and a lot of the aliens from the first few expansions, and what they're craving is some new experiences in Cosmic Encounter, aliens that do things that no alien has done before, and situations that they've never had. And I think in that regard, Cosmic Eons really delivers. If some of these aliens seem like they're really way too out there for you, it's probably because you're just not ready for that experience. But I think regardless, I would recommend that everyone get this expansion, and you can certainly start off with the aliens that have the most appeal and mix those in first, but then start adding in the others and give them a try, because every one of these aliens can create a pretty positive and hilarious experience, a very memorable experience in Cosmic Encounter, which is a game that I think is chock full of memorable experiences. So go get Cosmic Eons. It's a great expansion for a great game.